Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the start of the 2034 playoffs. The Royals hung on to win the AL Central for the 8th time in the past 9 seasons by 4 games over the Cleveland Guardians. We made the interesting move to pitch our ace, Ben Borgman, in the final game of the regular season. He came up with a dead arm. Fortunately, he seems to be bouncing back from that reasonably quickly, out for another 4 days. So since there's a three-game wild card series going on starting today before our series will start, he definitely should be ready to go. If not in game 1, then certainly in game 2. So hopefully no harm, no foul as far as that injury. And then Rusney Contreras, also only out for another day. So he should be pretty healthy as the postseason begins. We did we did figure out our playoff roster as we have for the past few years. We're going to go with 12 pitchers. That did mean that Gordon Graceffo, who had been a starter for us at the beginning of the season and then ended up in the pen, tough year with a 3-7, 5.25 ERA, does not make the roster. And Ramon Perez, who has been up and down between Omaha and Kansas City this year, and actually pretty effective at both places, the young closer, will not make the roster either. And looking at the 14 position players, the ones that were kind of in doubt perhaps, Billy Dominguez, utility infielder, left-handed bat, makes the roster. Mike McNeil, the youngster, who did not hit much in Kansas City, batted just 175 and 63 at-bats at the major league level, but profiles is a pretty decent hitter and did hit 348 with 27 homers in AAA this year. We're going to put him on the roster as a potential pinch hitter. And then another backup outfielder, left-handed bat, Orlando Soto, who hit 335 in limited action this year. Also made the roster. Of notable players who did not make the roster, really nobody. Ishmael Zavala had been an outfielder on the roster at the beginning of the year. He ended up getting sent down, spent most of the year in Omaha, hit just 161 in the majors. So McNeil essentially has taken Zavala's spot as the 14th man on this roster. And as the playoffs begin, with the Royals' 9th playoff appearance in the 13 years that we have been GM of this club, there's reason to think we're going to win it all. You look back, we made the playoffs a second time, won the World Series. Made the playoffs a second time, won the World Series. Well, now we've made the playoffs again 2 straight years. So at least by some mathematical pattern, the suggestion is that the Royals will come out of this season as the World Series champions. But maybe I'm grasping at straws. I do think, though, that, and I alluded to this at the end of our last episode, the playoff bracket really broke our way. Although we are the number 2 seed behind Seattle. They won 99 games, and we won 98. The 3rd seed is the Yankees, who are only an 85-win team. And then Detroit is the 6th seed, the lowest wild card seed, which was also an 85-win team. Those are the 2 teams in our bracket. Seattle's going to end up facing either the defending champion LA Angels, who are the 4th seed, tied with them with 99 wins, but ended up being seated behind the Yankees, or the 94-win Guardians, who we edged out in the AL Central. So theoretically, we've got a much easier second-round matchup than what Seattle's going to face. Will we make anything of that? Who knows? But at least on paper, the path to at least the ALCS seems a little easier for us than it is for Seattle, even though they are the team that will have home field advantage over us and home field advantage for as long as they are alive in the playoffs. And as the calendar turns to October, Victor Avelar was voted the September American League Rookie of the Month. Hit 375 with 11 homers and 23 ribbies during the month. If I remember correctly, he was also a Rookie of the Month in April. And the youngster ended up leading the American League with 135 ribbies, 282 batting average, 42 home runs. So my assumption is that he is also going to be named Rookie of the Year in about a month and a half or so. And we are through the wild card round. The defending champion Angels beat the Guardians. They'll be facing the Mariners, so 299 win teams in that ALDS. And our 98 win Royals will be going up against the 85 win Tigers, a team that we beat by 13 games in the AL Central this year. But the Tigers did take out the Yankees in their wild card series. Nationals swept the Marlins, and the Braves topped the Dodgers in the National League Wild Card Series. So we are ready to go, and fortunately, Ben Borgman's completely healthy and ready to go in Game 1. So hopefully pitching him in that last game of the year will not end up mattering. We are going to keep him on a 100 pitch count, at least for this first game in the series. Hope that dead arm does not crop back up. And it is kind of interesting because in one way on paper, it looks like this is going to be a real tough matchup for us. Detroit was 12-7 against us this regular season, even though we beat them by 13 games in the division. And when you look at their runs scored and runs against, they were pretty average, whereas we were third in the league in runs scored and first in runs against. So if you look at how we did over the course of the season with our runs scored, runs against, and our overall record, suggests that we're going to wipe the Tigers out. But you look at what they did to us in the 19 games we played this regular season, and it suggests that the Tigers may have our number. So a very interesting ALDS series here for our Royals. And as I mentioned, potential Cy Young Award winner Ben Borgman going to be on the mound for us. 18-6 record, league best 18 wins, league best 2.86 ERA, league best 1.06 WHIP, put up a 6.6 WAR, a 2.84 SIERA, and struck out 227 and 223 in a third inning. So excellent season for Borgman this year. He's going to be going up against Ozzie Romero. Also had a nice year, 12-9, 3.95 ERA, 215 strikeouts, and 184 in a third innings for the 28-year-old right-hander for the Detroit Tigers. And the Tigers have our number in Game 1 as Romero outduels Borgman. Bobby Witt Jr. did hit a home run for us. Looks like they broke through in the 7th inning. So, yeah, they broke through against Borgman finally in the 7th inning. He ended up giving up 4 earned runs over 6 1/3. Bosma blew a potential save when he came on in relief. Probably let some of those runs score against Borgman. Allen did fine at the end, but it did not really matter. Romero was tough, allowing just 2 earned runs over 7 innings. Mentioned we did get the home run from Bobby Witt Jr., doubles from Dylan Cruz and Angelo Velasquez. But the Tigers continue their dominance over the Royals in the regular season, at least in the first game of the playoffs here in Kansas City. And now our backs are up against the wall a little bit. Not an elimination game, but certainly pretty close to a must-win. Pretty much as close to a must-win as it can be without literally being a must-win game. Kansas City, the veteran Caleb Lagerwell, who was 14-11 with a 4.13 ERA, 3.35 SIERA, on the mound for the Royals, going up against Jose Lara, who was 5-6 with a 4.99 ERA. So you would think that the pitching matchup would favor the Royals here, as we're going up against the lefty Lara. Going to be pretty important for Kansas City to get the win in this game too. And we do bounce back with a 5-2 win, a raucous Kauffman Stadium crowd. Lagerwell got the win, Lara got the loss. Ergetto Laziosi, playoff home run for the youngster. So looking at the box score, we jumped on the Tigers early and really never looked back. They did close the gap to 4-2 in the sixth, but that was as close as they got. Lagerwell with 2 runs allowed across 5 2/3, and then really good relief from Bob Williams and Matt Allen, who picked up the save. Doubles from Avelar and Alvarado, in addition to the home run by Laziosi. So critical game for the Royals to ensure that they evened up the series before we headed to Detroit. Detroit still does have a home field advantage now with 2 games in a row in Detroit. If they can win on their home turf, we won't get back to Kansas City for that Game 5. But certainly feeling better about things right now that we finally have a win underway in this ALDS. And apparently some retirements from some Class A players, and manager Pedro Borbon going to retire. We will focus on finding a replacement for him down the road, because we are now moving on to Game 3 of the playoffs. For Detroit, Angel Cantu was 11-10 this year with a 3.90 ERA, 24-year-old, so a good young pitching prospect for the Tigers. His second full season in the majors, it looks like, and he made the jump from high A ball to the majors last season. And he's been reasonably effective, certainly a slightly above average pitcher, and he was an all-star this past season. And he's going to be going up against Eddie Chavera, who was our big acquisition this past off-season when we traded one of the top young prospects in all of baseball to bring on the 26-year-old pitcher from the Phillies. And Chavera responded with a 17-6 record, 3.91 ERA, and a 4 WAR for us. So a really nice first season for the Kansas City Royals for Eddie Chavera. But we brought him on board to hopefully help us win playoff games. So he'll have the opportunity to do that here in Game 3. And it looks like he came through, even though he didn't get the W. The Royals defeat the Tigers 3-1. Looks like Allen in relief got the win. So must have scored some runs late. We took a 1-0 lead. They came on in the 9th and came back against Allen, and then we scored 2 in the 10th, in the top of the 10th, and then we held him down. Chavera was brilliant, 12 strikeouts and only 2 hits allowed over 6 innings. Got some solid relief from Goran Bosma. Allen, our closer that we picked up in a trade near the trade deadline, came in and blew the save, but ended up getting the win when the offense bailed him out in the top of the 10th inning. So the Royals are 1 game away from moving on to the American League Championship Series tomorrow in Detroit, Game 4. So we've taken home field advantage in the series back, but Detroit does have home field advantage here in Game 4. They will be putting Jose Ruiz on the mound, 23-year-old. A lot of young pitchers on this Detroit staff. Looks like they could be a interesting team for many years to come. He went 10-4 with 14 saves, 4.09 ERA over 162 2/3 innings for the young right-hander. And Rusney Contreras, who we signed, you can see, basically during spring training after going back and forth and negotiating with him all off-season. Had a middling year for us, 9-10 record, 4.48 ERA. He is a proven veteran pitcher, though, and 3-time All-Star, as you can see, and hopefully he will come up with a big game here in the playoffs, allow us to close out Detroit, and hopefully avoid a must-win deciding Game 5 back at home. And Contreras did get the job done. We got a couple of dingers from Bobby Witt Jr. and another homer from Alex Vasquez. 11-3, an easy victory for the Royals. So after losing the first game in the series, Kansas City takes 3 in a row to move on to the ALCS, where we'll be facing either the Mariners or the Angels. Ergetto Laziosi, the youngster, wins the ALDS MVP. Looking at the box score, Contreras was respectable, 3 earned runs over 6 innings, but we got to Ruiz early and then continued to batter their bullpen, opening up a big lead. Dabovich and Lesko came on in relief in the blowout. As I mentioned, another couple home runs from Bobby Witt Jr., 3 home runs and 4 ribbies for the series. But Laziosi, with his .500 batting average and also drove in 4 runs, ends up edging out Bobby Witt Jr., I assume, for the ALDS MVP. And since we did have Borgman get through that first game successfully health-wise, even though we did lose that first game of the series, we're going to put his pitch count up to 110 now that we're in the playoffs. So Lagerwell, who's normal injury proneness, Chavera, who's actually durable injury proneness, no pitch limits on them, and the 2 fragile pitchers, Contreras and Borgman, will still have their pitch counts up to 110 now for the rest of the playoffs, after we kind of held them to 100 during the regular season to hopefully keep them healthy, which they all seem to be right now. So looking at the playoff tree, we are through. The Angels have a 2-1 lead over the Mariners, and in the National League, both of the Division Series games are tied at 1 apiece right now. And we are on to the League Championship Series, and there are some high-powered teams left. The Los Angeles Angels, who were the 2003 World Champions, the Chicago Cubs, who were the 2032 World Champions, and the Kansas City Royals, who were the 2001 World Series champions, are all still in the playoffs. So the last 3 World Series winners are alive, along with the Washington Nationals. Los Angeles, although they were not a division winner, 99 wins, second best in baseball, but we have the home field advantage by virtue of having won the Central. And then looking at the Nationals, they are a 91-win wild card team, and the Cubs were a 93-win Central Division winner, similar to the Royals. So it looks like we're going to have some big series. As I mentioned, the Angels are the defending champions, and they beat the Royals last season in the ALDS when we had the home field advantage. Hopefully we will make the most of the home field advantage this year in the American League Championship Series. Looks like it's 2 incredibly matched teams. As I mentioned, they won 99. We won 98. We did take the season series 4-2 over LA. They were second in the league in runs scored. We were third. They were second in the league in runs against, and we were first. So it looks like an extremely closely matched series, any way that you're going to break it down. 2 of the best teams in baseball facing off here in the ALCS. Going to be a tough road for the Royals to get back to the World Series. We're definitely going to earn it if we get there. Ben Borgman, our ace, back on the mound, 18-6, 2.86 ERA, going against Daniel Espino, who was 18-8 with a 3.43 ERA for the Angels. By virtue of being the division champions, we do have the home field advantage. Perhaps that will be the difference here in the ALCS. And Game 1, good start for the Royals. Rally to beat the Angels 4-3. Looking at the box score, the Angels jumped out to a 3-0 lead on us. We got 1 back in the 5th and then 3 in the bottom of the 9th. Tony Fonseca, the excellent defensive shortstop, the walk-off hero, dramatic run-scoring single to break the tie and give the win to the good guys. Doubles from Laziosi and Avear. Borgman was respectable. 3 runs, but only 1 earned over 5 1/3. And then Bob Williams and Tyler Bosma combined for 3 2/3 innings of scoreless relief as the Royals came back to take Game 1 of this American League Championship Series against the LA Angels. Moving on to Game 2, Caleb Lagerwell, a long-time solid pitcher for the Royals on the mound, going up against Cassius Thomas, 31-year-old, 11-2 record with a 3.33 ERA, only pitched 18 games. Looks like he probably ended up on the IL at one point, but had a solid year for the Angels. Royals would love to win both games at home and put a little more pressure on the Angels before we head out to Anaheim. Let's see if we can do it. And the Royals do, and this one was a rout, 8-0. 4 home runs for the Royals. Dylan Cruz, Bobby Witt Jr. with a pair, and Alex Vasquez also with a homer. Lagerwell, excellent. 6 hits, no walks, no earned runs over 8 1/3. Allen came on to pitch 2/3 of a clean inning to finish things up for us. We got to Cassius Thomas early. He allowed 5 runs over an inning and 2/3, and then we continued to take advantage of the bullpen. So a great start to this American League Championship Series for the Kansas City Royals. We are headed out west for the next 3 games, but we're in as good position as we could hope to be heading out there with a 2-0 lead on the Los Angeles Angels. Would be nice to knock out the defending champs and also get a little bit of revenge for what they did to us in the ALDS last season. And we've got some more AA players retiring. Again, not the biggest priority for us to think about right now as we are in the playoffs. Eddie Chavera, who we talked about, picked him up in the big trade for Maxime De La Cruz last offseason, going up against the veteran Jack Flaherty on his 39th birthday. Let's hope that we make this a very unhappy birthday for Flaherty. Another solid year for him, though. 13-10, 3.75 ERA. Can see he's won 13 games 3 straight seasons in his late 30s. In his ERA, 3.77, 3.79, and 3.75. So as consistent as we have talked about Caleb Lagerwell being over the course of his career, you look at what Flaherty's done the last 3 years, and he has been about as consistent as they can be. The hope is that the Royals can get to him here in Game 3, and we do not. It was a pitcher's duel, though. Flaherty outdueled Chavera. The Angels beat us 2-0, so just would have needed to score some runs. Chavera was fine, 2 earned runs over 6 2/3, but Flaherty was dominant, only allowed 5 hits over 7 innings, and then Tolbert came on to pitch 2 innings with 4 strikeouts in relief. So we got the pitching performance that we needed, but the bats just couldn't do anything against Flaherty, and the Royals lead is now only 2-1 as we head into Game 4. Contreras, the veteran on the mound for us. Andrew Baker, another veteran, 34 years old, on the mound for the Angels, was 9-4 this season with 1 save, 3.30 ERA, 2.86 SIERA, 2.5 WAR. So a pretty effective pitcher. He has been a All-Star 3 times in his career, including this season. So another tough pitching matchup. Looks like it'll be another close game. Let's hope that the good guys can win one. And we don't. It's all down to 2-2 at this point. The Angels even the series. We got a homer from Vasquez. They got another homer from Carminati. Contreras, brutal outing. 6 earned runs over 2 2/3 innings. After that, we didn't allow another run with good performances from Williams, Hubbard, and Bosma. but we just couldn't get much started. Baker, we got 3 runs on him in 5 1/3, a run off of Williamson in relief, but just not generating a ton of offense, although we did get doubles from Cruz and Fonseca in addition to the home run from Vasquez. But it's now a best of 3 series. Obviously, with our ace on the mound tomorrow, would hope that we can go home with a 3-2 lead, give ourselves a little bit more flexibility than having to win both at home. But it's going to be a tough matchup because we're going against an 18-game winner as well in Espino. But this is the opportunity for Ben Borgman to put an exclamation point on what we think may be a Cy Young Award-winning season if he can win this big Game 4 or Game 5 against the the Angels. No, not the Los Angeles Raiders, the Los Angeles Angels. So on to Game 5. And the Royals with a 6-3 win. Another homer from Vasquez. Borgman gets the win. Espino the loss. So can breathe a little bit of sigh of relief. Royals got on the board early and often with runs in the first, second, and third inning. Angels came back a bit. They scored 2 in the 7th, which was good because they came back with another couple in the 8th. Borgman was solid, 1 earned run over 5 2/3. Williams and Lesko also gave up runs, but Allen came on to close the door and get the save. And we got 4 runs against Espino. He did give up 8 hits, struck out 10 over those 5 innings, but we got enough from him with a bunch of doubles from Bobby Witt Jr., Dylan Cruz, Tony Fonseca, and Eragetto Laziosi, and of course the home run from Vasquez that I mentioned. So still have work to do, but feeling better about how this series may turn out with the fact that we will have a 3-2 lead heading home to Kansas City rather than a 3-2 deficit. So it's traveling from Los Angeles to Kansas City on the off day. We'll finish that up, and then it's going to be a rematch of Game 2 between Cassius Thomas and Caleb Lagerwell. You can see in the playoffs, Thomas has been pretty rough, and Lagerwell has been outstanding. Hope for Kansas City is that that will continue. You can see we've got a 3-2 lead on the Angels over in the National League. The Nationals have a 3-2 lead on the Cubs. The hope for the Royals is that we finish it today. And we do. The Royals have gotten their revenge for losing in the ALDS to the Los Angeles Angels last season. And we have officially dethroned the defending champions on our way to try to win the World Series. Laziosi with a home run, Alex Vasquez with the series MVP, 5-1 victory for the Royals in Game 6. Another win for Lagerwell. Scored those 5 runs over the first 3 innings and then just kind of held on for dear life. They did get 1 run off of us in the 9th. Lagerwell was outstanding. 2 hits, no walks, and 7 strikeouts over 7 innings. Dabovich did give up a run in relief. Bosma came on and gave up a hit. And then our closer, Allen, came on to close things out. So a big win for the Royals. And player of the game, not shockingly, Caleb Lagerwell. Cassius Thomas injured while pitching. He was actually better than he was in Game 2 against us, even though he was once again saddled with the loss. But we scored some runs off of Ruiz. And the Kansas City Royals are heading to the 2034 World Series. And it looks like Washington is still up 3-2 on the Cubs. So we will find out who we're going to be playing in the 2034 World Series shortly. And then there were two. The Kansas City Royals will be facing off against the Chicago Cubs here in the 2034 World Series. It's going to mark the Cubs' third consecutive World Series appearance. They lost to the Angels last year in 2033. They beat the Red Sox in 2032. And the Royals won the World Championship in 2031. So I don't know that either team will officially qualify as a dynasty, but either team will be pushing themselves towards the margins of a dynasty conversation with a win. Because if the Royals win the World Series, 3 straight World Series appearances and 2 victories for them. If the Royals win, it will be our second title in the past 4 seasons and our third title in the past 8 seasons. So a lot on the line between these two powerhouses here in the 2034 World Series. Pretty even matchup again, at least on paper. Royals 98-win Central Division Championship. Cubs a 93-win in a Central Division Championship in the National League. They ranked second in runs scored in their league. Royals were third in runs scored in our league. Royals first in runs against in the AL, while the Cubs were third in runs against. So 2 excellent and evenly matched teams here. Royals ace Ben Borgman on the mound, going up against Edwin Campos. 12-9 record is good. The 5.19 ERA, not that good for the 27-year-old. Certainly looking at his ratings, he profiles as a better pitcher than that. 13-3 last year with a 3.53 ERA. So the hope is that we can take advantage of the right-hander here, Game 1 in Kansas City. But we do not. A 1-0 loss. So a pitcher's duel in Game 1 of the World Series gives the Cubs a 1-0 series lead. Campos, excellent. 8 innings pitched, no earned runs. Perfect ninth for the save from Diaz. Borgman was excellent, gave up 1 earned run, 5 hits, and a walk with 9 strikeouts over 7 1/3. But unfortunately, it was not good enough. 101 pitches from Campos, 8 innings of shutout ball. Victor Mejia, 25-year-old, drove in the 1 run for the Cubs. So the Royals are already down early in this series and have wasted a brilliant pitching performance by Ben Borgman. Eddie Chavera, 17-6 with a 3.91 ERA on the mound at home for Kansas City as we try to bounce back. We'll be going up against Justin Locke, who was 5-4 with a 2.56 ERA, 25-year-old from New York. Also spent some time in Iowa this year. Great personality, ground ball pitcher. Doesn't profile as a dominant pitcher. Clearly the Royals need to get this game here at home to not necessarily get home field advantage back, but just avoid this becoming a potential blowout. So hopefully the big off-season acquisition, Chavera, will pay dividends here in Game 2 of the World Series. And we did get the win, 7-6. Arigato Laziosi, though, our starting second baseman and the MVP of the ALDS, banged up with back spasm that's going to have a moderate effect on him for the next couple weeks. Minimal impact on hitting, moderate impact on running. Going to face an interesting decision with Laziosi. Before we figure out that decision, though, let's at least take a look at the box score. Bobby Witt Jr. hit a home run, blasts us. I wonder if it was a home run at the end. Nope, Angelo Velasquez, center fielder, was the walk-off hero for us. Oof, we took a 6-3 lead into the 9th inning, gave it up, let them tie us, and then Angelo Velasquez run-scoring double to put us on to victory. As I mentioned, home runs from Bobby Witt Jr. Chavera was solid, 3 earned runs over 7 2/3 innings. Mackenzie Gore and Allen in relief. Allen definitely was sloppy, giving up those 3 runs there in the ninth, but bailed out to get the W following the double from Angelo Velasquez. So big win for the Royals. We're going to be traveling north to Chicago now, tied at 1-1. So the Cubs have seized home field advantage from the Royals, but it's been as even a series you could hope so far, with a 1-1 series tie and each team having scored 7 runs through the first 2 games of the series. And although Laziosi is going to be banged up with those back spasms, he's such a good player. I think we're going to keep him on the roster. When you look at the playoff roster here, we've got Billy Dominguez, who can play second, third, and short, who's not starting. And more importantly than Billy Dominguez, we've also got the youngster Willie Flores, who can play basically any position on the field on the roster. So if Laziosi is too banged up to play, I think between Dominguez and Flores, hopefully with Flores, I think there's options for Bobby Crosby to piece a lineup together. If Laziosi gets banged up further, can obviously bring in Dominguez or Flores. I just don't feel like there's anyone who's so great that we absolutely want to have him on the roster. We'd be bringing up a Juan Palomares or a veteran Jorge Diaz, or backup outfielder and Ishmael Zavala. I don't think any of them are going to be difference makers. If Laziosi can't go at second base, presumably Flores will start, and we'll still have Dominguez coming off the bench. So I am not going to replace Laziosi on the roster. We are going to let him try to fight through this day-to-day injury. And as we head into Game 3 in Chicago, a pivotal Game 3, Caleb Lagerwell, who's been brilliant this postseason after a 14-11 year on the mound for us, he's going up against a pitcher who's been almost as effective this postseason in Jose Delgado. Between the two of them, they're 5-0 with an ERA well under 2. Delgado for the year was 9-8 with a 3.18 ERA. 29-year-old right-hander. He's had some pretty good years with the Cubs, and 15-8 last year with a 3.75 ERA. Not quite as good in 2032, but looks to be a solid right-handed pitcher, and we've got a solid right-hand pitcher on the mound also. And the win goes to the Royals as Caleb Lagerwell continues to pitch incredibly in this postseason. Home run from Dylan Cruz. Royals take home field advantage back. You can see the Cubs were up early. We scored in the middle innings, and then good relief for both teams the rest of the way. Lagerwell allowed 2 runs and 8 hits over 7 innings while striking out 7. His ERA for the playoffs rose to 1.29, but with a 4-0 record thus far in the playoffs, it's been a brilliant playoff performance from the veteran Lagerwell, and if we get to a Game 7, we'll have him on the mound. Tyler Bosma got the hold. Allen got the save. And the Royals are back on top in this series, 2-1. And we're now 2 games away from a potential title. Contreras, the off-season acquisition, who had a pretty mediocre regular season for us, 9-10 with a 4.48 ERA, can make our off-season pursuit of him pay off with a win today. Brought him on board as a veteran stabilizing presence for the rotation. If he comes through with a win today, his performance in 2034, his mediocre performance will be excused if he gets a win today here in Game 4, trying to get our 3rd win. Drew Gray, 31-year-old on the mound, spent basically the entire year in Iowa, where he was 8-11 with a 4.74 ERA. Pitched just 2 innings in relief at the major league level. I guess they might be using him as an opener, maybe. I don't know exactly what's going on, but either they've had a lot of injuries, or they're going to do something funky against us, using the lefty as an opener to maybe mess with our lineup. So pitching matchup would seem to favor us with an experienced veteran on the mound against a guy who spent the whole year in AAA. But it does not matter, as the Cubs beat the Royals 7-4. Disappointing performance from Contreras, I'm sure. Did get a homer from Alex Vasquez. Kelenic got a homer for the Cubs. Looking at the box score, yeah, they were up by 5 runs. They were up 5-2 by the third inning. 5 runs over 2 2/3 from Contreras, who has been pretty disappointing in the regular season, and now with a 1-2 record and 11.12 ERA in the playoffs, has been extremely disappointing in the playoffs. Bosman, Brule each gave up a run in relief. It was just not a great game for the Royals, unfortunately. Did get 2 doubles from Bobby Witt Jr. and a double from Alvarado, but weren't able to generate enough offense to win. So the Cubs bounce back, win game 4 at home, and now we're in a similar situation to where we were in the ALCS against the Angels, 2-2 and on the road. In that situation, we were able to get the Game 5 win and then go back home. Obviously, our preference is going to be to get the Game 5 win here in Chicago and to be able to head home with the lead. You can see Borgman, the ERA in the playoffs of 2.55 has been fine, but his record is 1-2. Campos 2-1 with a 1.78 ERA. Would love it if our ace can even his playoff record to 2-2 here in Game 5. And the Kansas City Royals do get the victory 6-4. So Cruz and Avelar, the rookie who had not done too much in the playoffs, his first 2 playoff home runs here in Game 5 of the World Series, did not get the actual W for Borgman, and he didn't pitch that great. 5 hits, 2 walks over 4 2/3 innings, but he did scatter 2 runs. Got some solid relief from Williams and Brule. Hubbard came in and gave up a couple runs, but then Lesko and Allen came in to stabilize things. Got to Campos for 5 runs over 5 innings and scored another one off of Baz. Can see actually the Royals took a 4-0 lead, then it was 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, and then kind of hung on for dear life there in the 8th and 9th innings. But we are now 1 game away. Dylan Cruz, as I mentioned, and Avelar with 2 home runs. Also got doubles from Bolden and Laziosi, so he seems to be fighting through those back spasms with a 2-for-4 performance here and a run scored in Game 5. And we got a triple from the star center fielder Angelo Velasquez. So the Kansas City Royals are 1 game away. So the Royals are up 3-2, going to have an off day tomorrow. And we are headed back to Kansas City. So we've got the home field advantage in the final 2 potential games of this World Series. The hope is obviously to just win it all tomorrow. I guess we can take a quick look at the posted players from Japan. Doesn't look like there is anyone too interesting. And the Royals generally don't have a ton of money. Actually, this pitcher here looks really interesting. We don't have any money. But Yoichi Ogawa, 27-year-old, looks like he's been a pretty big-time pitcher in Japan. Led the league in strikeouts 3 straight years, ERA twice, strikeouts per 9 innings, FIP minus a couple times, WAR a couple times. He's looking for some big money. 6 years at 16.7 million. Very interesting prospect. But right now I'm focused on trying to get through this World Series. But can at least get another scouting report on him to remind me to maybe try to pick him up. I don't know whether our ownership would allow us to pay that posting fee or not, but he looks like a really interesting pitcher. Wow. Yeah, he was the number 1 pick in the Japanese draft back in 2024, and the left-handers had a pretty good career there. Led the league in strikeouts 4 out of his 6 seasons. Yeah, he's been pretty solid, and he's in the prime of his career. He's got a normal injury proneness. We are going to potentially have money to spend this coming off season. Now, granted, he's an extreme fly ball pitcher who only throws around 90 miles an hour, only has average movement. I mean, he's led the Japanese league in home runs allowed this past year, so he could give up a lot of home runs in the majors, but he's an interesting prospect, but I need to make sure that I don't get distracted by him. Right now, we are focused on trying to win a World Series here in Kansas City. And we are now headed to Game 6. The Royals, as I mentioned earlier, up 3-2. Eddie Chavera, who has not recorded a victory yet in the playoffs, but he has pitched well with that 2.21 ERA. But Eddie Chavera is the 26-year-old pitcher that last offseason we traded away one of the top prospects in baseball to bring on board here in Kansas City. We may have mortgaged our future to bring Chavera on board, and he has the opportunity to make that pay off by potentially being the winning pitcher in the deciding game of this 2034 World Series. In which case, no matter what Maxime de la Cruz goes on and does in his career, we will always cherish that trade for the Kansas City Royals if Chavera is able to come through here in Game 6 against the Chicago White Sox. And he does not. 2 homers from Kelenic, homer from Rodriguez, 12-4 victory for the Cubs. So 6 ribbies from Kelenic. Did get a home run from our catcher, Angelo Bolden, but we are headed to a deciding Game 7. Chavera actually was not horrible. Gave up 3 earned runs over 4 2/3, but the bullpen was sloppy, whether it was Bob Williams, Dylan Lesko, Mackenzie Gore, or R.J. Dabovich. Everyone that we sent out there allowed earned runs, and even Bryce Hubbard allowed a run, although it was not earned. So we sent 6 pitchers out to the mound against the Cubs, and they all allowed at least 1 run to score. So rough game for the Royals. And now the backs are going to be up against the wall for both the Royals and the Cubs here in a deciding Game 7 in Kansas City. Jose Delgado, 9-8 record, 3.18 ERA, solid season for the 29-year-old for the Cubs, and he is 2-1 with a 3.09 ERA in the playoffs. Caleb Lagerwell, longtime starter for these Royals, coming off a 14-11 season with a 4.13 ERA, which was the worst he's ever put up for the Royals. But he has been brilliant this postseason with a 4-0 record and a 1.29 ERA. Is it asking him too much to deliver one final brilliant performance here in Game 7? If you remember, 3 years ago in a similar spot in Game 7, Lagerwell had a brilliant performance to pitch the Royals to their fourth World Championship overall and their second World Series championship of this playthrough. Can he notch himself in Kansas City history forever by winning another Game 7 in the World Series? And the answer is yes. The Kansas City Royals, a 10-4 victory. Caleb Lagerwell ends up 5-0 in the playoffs, pitches a clinching Game 7, earns a victory in the clinching Game 7 of the World Series for the second time in the past 3 years. 3 home runs from Alex Vasquez, 2 home runs from Victor Avelar in Game 7. Alex Vasquez, by virtue of that power, named the World Series MVP. But Caleb Lagerwell certainly should have been in the mix. You can see wasn't as sharp in this game. Obviously gave up some runs because he finished with a 3.75 ERA in 12 innings to go with that 2-0 record. Vasquez was 11 for 27, so a 407 batting average, 4 homers and 7 runs batted in. Avelar also 4 homers and 7 runs batted in the series, although he hit just 222. Taking a look at the box score for a few more details, it was back and forth until the 5th inning when the Royals had a 3-2 lead, or the Cubs, had a 3-2 lead. The Royals came through with 3 runs in the 5th, added on 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, and then gave up a run in the 9th. Lagerwell, 3 earned runs over 5 innings pitched, allowed 10 hits and 2 walks. So 12 base runners over those 5 innings, but kept the runs down to just 3. Bob Williams came on and pitched 2 perfect innings. And then Tyler Bosma, although he did give up a run, pitched the final 2 innings to secure the victory. Double from Avelar to go with his 2 home runs and 3 home runs from Vasquez. So 5 ribbies from Vasquez and 3 ribbies from Avelar in the clincher. And the Kansas City Royals are your 2034 World Series champions. So, as I mentioned at the start of this series, I don't think we technically qualify as a dynasty yet, but the Royals have now won 2 of the last 4 World Series and 3 of the last 8 World Series. We've got 9 playoff appearances in our 13 years as general manager now, and the 3 world championships. So can't ask for anything better than that. The Cubs have been to 3 straight World Series, but they've only won 1 of them now. They beat Boston 2 years ago, lost to the Angels last year, and now lost to our Kansas City Royals here in 2034. So it's definitely a very satisfying result to get another championship for these Royals. It's been a really good playthrough. Honestly, it's been better than I would have ever hoped. You can see we just added our 3rd World Series here and our 9th playoff appearance. So it's been a really good run. I thought that I would have to be going through a pretty painful rebuild with these Royals at some point, and it really hasn't happened yet. We had a losing record that first season back in 2022, and then we've hit a winning record for all of these past 12 seasons. As I mentioned, it had made the playoffs 9 of these past 12 seasons. So it's been a good run through. And I feel like we've got some decent talent in the minors right now. I've talked about a lot of those players in our other episodes. Supposedly our minor league system ranks 19th out of 30th overall. But you look at some of the young players we have, like Mike McNeil, who I mentioned, at the beginning of this episode. We've had guys who have been, helping us at the major league level. In the case of McNeil, who are among our top prospects. And then, you can see there's a lot of guys at the rookie level, single A, high A, who are decent prospects coming up. So even though we're 19th, I don't feel like we have to tear this thing down anytime soon. It's obviously going to be a very interesting offseason coming up for these Royals. As I've talked about on many occasions, Dylan Cruz will almost certainly be leaving, in part because we do have really good young outfielders like Mike McNeil coming up behind him, and he's going to be looking for a lot of money. And then Bobby Witt Jr. will have the option to opt out probably tomorrow when we go to the off season. So the good news is that we will have money to spend this coming off season to hopefully keep the Royals very competitive. The bad news is we could be losing two of the top bats on our team in Bobby Witt Jr. and Dylan Cruz. But we are going to do everything possible to make sure that we keep Bobby Witt Jr., and even if he does opt out, we will try to bring him back at this point in the playthrough. Kind of want to see, at the very least, Bobby Witt Jr. through the end of his career, see if we can have him end up being a Hall of Fame caliber player when everything is said and done. But we will face those decisions in the next episode. Until then, we are going to savor the third championship for these Kansas City Royals, and we will start making those difficult decisions for the off season in our next episode, when we also do a deep dive on our top performers and our bottom performers from this 2034 season, and also dig into our arbitration eligible players and kind of figure out what's going on in award season for 2034 as well. Until then, though, the Royals are once again the World Series champions. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.